You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, the story that won't die, Dianna Russini and Mike Vrabel and their torrid, hot 6-year affair, or however long it was, a long-ass time. We've got a couple of new nuggets out there. And one of the nuggets is, of course, Russini worked for The Athletic, right? And The Athletic was like nothing to see here when all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, there may be something to see here. And then now they're doing an investigation. And The Athletic is owned now by the New York Times. Well, there was some word floating around out there that some of the employees of the New York Times wasn't real happy with the initial response from The Athletic, the editor. Well, now it's coming out that New York Times employees are not happy at all. Like they're pissed that this investigation is still not complete. You see that, causing staff unrest. We'll get to Dianna Russini's gambling habits in a minute, because that's rather interesting too. It's something I brought up, and we'll look at that in a second. This is page 6. Some inside the New York Times building are beginning to wonder why it's taken so long with the Dianna Russini investigation. We're told that the top editors have reiterated promises that it's coming, though they say a report is still, quote, weeks away. What you got to wonder is, and I'm going to say it out loud, is there any kind of covering up going on here? All right, because, I mean, she was working for The Athletic, and she was working for a lot of other people because it's been going on that long. But you get my point. Is there anything in here that's going to make The Athletic look even worse? And they're trying to do a little, let's sweep this joker under the rug. The debacle began in early April when page 6 published photos of Russini, the top NFL inside her, for The Athletic, the Times-owned outlet that provides all the gray lady sports coverage, holding hands with Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel. Well, they were doing a little more than that. And then all these photos came out. Yeah. They were smooching, and then there's the spa. Internal strife at the Times began as the Athletic's top editor, Steven Ginsburg, immediately backed Russini, saying the pictures were, quote, misleading and lacked essential context. Yeah, the context was, again, a torrid 6-year affair, at least. That's the context you missed. Then saying days later that, quote, additional information emerged and new questions were raised. He pledged an inquiry. Russini, who staunchly denied an affair, resigned on April 14th, saying she stands behind every story she ever published. Oh, there they are, getting some sugar. Yeah. And there he's holding her hands. Good God. As previously reported, the episode raised questions internally about the impartiality of Russini's work. We'll get to that in a minute. But also about how the culture at The Athletic, which the Times bought in 2022, squares with that at the Times. One insider told page 6 it was, quote, embarrassing for the staff. But 2 months later, Russini's colleagues still don't have answers. And insiders tell us that while the announcement of the probe quelled some concerns, the long wait is beginning to raise them anew. Now we're told Ginsburg addressed the matter at a routine all hands meeting of the Athletic staffers last week. Quote, we're going to take a few more weeks, he said. There's just a lot to go through. And we obviously want to take our time and be careful doing that. We will update everybody when we get to the end of that. We also said that if we find anything that needs to be corrected, we will correct it along the way. Question is, what are you correcting? I'm just pointing that out. What are you correcting right now? Now on to something that we talked about. You know, Russini's a voter, was a voter, is a voter, is still a voter, question mark? That's a great question. Is she still eligible to vote for all these NFL awards? One of which was Mike Vrabel winning Coach of the Year? Who do you think she voted for? Dianna Russini told a sports bettor who was 100% winning the MVP 2 days before the NFL banquet. Uh-oh. We got ourselves a gambling scandal. Imagine for a moment you're a sports bettor. Now imagine you're a longtime friend of one of the 50 NFL MVP voters who is also connected to some of the other 49 voters. What would you do if that friend told you which player is 100% winning the MVP 2 days before that award? That scenario actually played out as AP NFL Awards voter Dianna Russini acknowledged in a newly unearthed episode of the 2025 episode of Pardon My Take. The episode revealed that Russini told sports bettor Eric Sollenberger, a.k.a. PFT commenter, that Lamar Jackson was going to win the MVP 2 days before the award winners were announced. Russini did so days after herself cast the MVP ballot for Jackson. This conversation raises questions about Russini, who said she enjoys gambling and was photographed interlocking fingers with Coach of the Year winner Mike Vrabel. Russini also has a vote for Coach of the Year, but the AP hasn't released her ballot and hasn't explained why. Because that's another scandal. That's why. I'm not sure why that has not been brought up more loudly. Making the optics worse, Sollenberger admits he had set a bet on Jackson for MVP. And the podcast is sponsored by DraftKings, which hosts an NFL MVP awards market in several states. Of course, the implications, we know today that Josh Allen won the MVP that season and narrowly beat out Lamar Jackson. In other words, Russini's information to Sollenberger was not accurate. But did Russini lie to Sollenberger, or did she think she was giving him legitimate inside information? So she actually was wrong. Jesus Christ. Did she ever get any inside her news correct? Does anybody know? Can we see a track record? But you got one thing right. A.J. Brown got traded to the Patriots. On the podcast, Russini claims she lied in terms of public perception. That's her best case scenario. Quote, I purposely lied to you because I knew how much money you had on that. And I thought it would be fun to play games with you there. Good God. Russini talks about the conversation in a playful manner, but there are serious implications here for the AP and DraftKings and Sollenberger. If Russini purposely lied about Lamar Jackson winning, that would be a cruel joke on Sollenberger, who is her longtime friend, according to Russini herself. As a bettor, if Sollenberger believed the information was true, he theoretically could have placed additional wagers on Jackson in private markets to increase profit. What the hell, man? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's where we're going to stop on that. But why the hell would you give your friend incorrect information so they could lose money? Is she nuts? Is she out of... Is there something wrong there? Is there a screw loose? And did Mike Vrabel put that screw back in and tighten it up? Damn, Rhodes. All right. You know, I mean, it's worth asking. Again, every one of her votes ever should be exposed. Put them all out there. We want to see them all. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.